You can go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our session under the Driving Local Change, Sustainable Plans for Strategies for Energy Transition. We are here today with three speakers. They are all linked to the Smart Cities Lighthouse project under Horizon 2020 called Sharing Cities. Very successful, big project of about 25 million euros of funding. You will hear more about this from the first speaker, Mr. Nathan Pierce. And we have with us today, so first Nathan, he's head of the Smart London Cities team and of the Greater London Authority. We have Clara Kaligaris, which is head of unit. Hi there, in the Urban Economy Employment Department of Milan, also one of the lighthouse cities of the Sharing Cities project. And Marcin, and now help me, Gdaci?
Grodzki. Almost.
Grodzki,
Yes.
almost, Grodzki. And head of Climate Policy Unit of the city of Warsaw. I think, yeah, the best is that Nathan, you start directly because you have been the coordinator of this wonderful project for now 5 years, and the floor is all yours.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jens. Thank you to my two colleagues who Jens introduced, Clara and Martin, for joining me today. And thank you to the Covenant of Mayors for inviting us to share our work over the past 5 years. And as Jens mentioned, I'm the coordinator or program director for Sharing Cities, which is one of the Smart Cities and Communities energy efficiency smart city programs. We have been running over the last 5 years, quite a long-term program, quite a large program in terms of scope and funding. And also quite impressive in terms of the impact and success that we've had. So we're here today to tell you a bit about the Sharing Cities programme, what it actually is, what our success has been, what our impact has been, and in particular, the impacts that we've had on the cities of Milan and Warsaw. And so I'll dive straight in. So Sharing Cities is Horizon 2020 funded. And it's all about testing smart city or digital infrastructure that delivers energy reductions and carbon reductions as well. It's also about testing the business models and testing the underlying financial case for deploying these types of technologies in our cities. So in Sharing Cities, we've been really keen to make sure that this isn't just a series of pilot projects that end when the grant funding ends. What we've been really keen to do is to ensure that what we test, and as long as it works, can then be scaled up to the rest of the city or be scaled up to other cities outside of the Sharing Cities programme. But even inside the Sharing Cities programme, our scope is very large. So there's 6 cities that are involved in the Sharing Cities project. We have 3 lighthouse cities where most of this technology has been tested and where the grant funding has gone. And then we have what we call our 3 replicator cities or our 3 fellow cities who are there to learn from the lighthouse cities and replicate things that are relevant to their cities. So the 3 lighthouse cities were Greenwich in London, so the city of London, Milan in Italy, and Lisbon in Portugal. And then our 3 replicator or fellow cities were Warsaw in Poland, Burgas in Bulgaria, and Bordeaux in France. Now, for those of you that know those cities, they are big cities. 3 of those cities are capital cities. Milan is obviously capital of its region. They're large cities that have a big impact on their local areas, have large populations. I think we counted it up and we all cover a population of around about 18 million. So the size of a medium-sized country. We have quite a lot of sway in the marketplace. So what we do as cities can have a real impact on how the smart city marketplace acts. Now, 24 million euros went into the Sharing Cities programme, and we have got a target of triggering over 500 million of further investment as a result of that. And I'll come back to that target in a minute. Now, the kinds of technologies that we've been testing in Sharing Cities are all smart, low carbon digital technologies. So we've tested 5 types of smart electric mobility, things like parking sensors, e-bikes, electric charging points, converting municipal fleets to electric vehicles. We have tested lots of smart lampposts. I think at the last count on the slide there, you can see around 2,400. And within that, we have tested a whole range of sensors, well over 30 different types of sensors, from light, noise monitoring. We deployed 80 electric charging points from lampposts in Greenwich. So a huge range of different types of technology there. We have retrofitted over 34 large-scale public and private buildings across the 3 lighthouse cities. This includes large apartment blocks. It includes the World Heritage Site Lisbon City Hall in Lisbon, an important heritage building. It also includes schools and civic buildings like libraries as well, all to make them more energy efficient. And we've seen some incredible energy efficiency off the back of that, 60% savings in some cases. We've deployed citizen engagement applications, ways to engage with our citizens to encourage them to adopt low carbon behaviour, sustainable energy management systems, and then obviously data platforms that underpin all of the work that we've done, because smart cities at the end of the day is all about extracting data so that you can better design and improve your services. And at a strategic level, we've had a few targets that we set out as part of our bid, which we have now met. So strategically, we've met our aim. So we feel that we have demonstrated now that there is a case for a collaborative model. Now, the Sharing Cities programme is made up of 34 partners that cuts across public sector partners, private sector partners, large businesses like Siemens, and lots of small, medium enterprises as well, and also academic partners that have been a real key part of the way that we have designed and delivered this technology. And we feel that we've really made the case for that collaboration and the extra value that that brings. We've also made the case for low carbon technology. The carbon savings that we've seen have been significant, and I'm sure Clara will touch on some of them in Milan. We have also really demonstrated that you can accelerate this marketplace when you bring scale to the market. And we have demonstrated that there is an investment case to be made for this technology. So in the last 5 years of this program has been running for 5 years, and we're now in the last year of Sharing Cities. So we're really in that stage now where we are trying to demonstrate and scale up and mainstream what we have implemented. We are working to meet that 500 million target, and I am very proud to tell you that we are now around about 300 million of our 500 target. So we have triggered further investment that is totaling around 300 million euros across all of our cities, and in some cities that are outside of Sharing Cities. And this really has demonstrated the financial viability and the potential for the marketplace. So that's it from me. Do I hand back to you now, Jens? I think I do.
Yes, you do. Thank you very much for this very concise overview of such a complex and really groundbreaking project. Because also what has to be said, you said it's Greenwich in London, so one of the boroughs of a huge city, but it's also leading by example directly in the city, and really it seems that also the other boroughs are really now looking at this and want to replicate, and that's exactly what we need. So leading by example and making the others envious that you're doing such a great job and wanting to do the same. And with this, I hand over to Clara. Clara is actually representing here the second lighthouse project, the second lighthouse city, and this. So, floor is all yours, Clara.
Thank you, Nathan, and thank you all for this invitation. It's always it's a pleasure for us to be able to share this experience which has been surely for the city of Milan one of the most interesting ones in the latest years, and one of the most challenging ones, as Nathan was explaining. If you go further, just to give you an overview, I'm head of the Smart City Unit, as you were anticipating, which is under the economy and urban economy and employment development department, which means that we are a cross-setting, let's say, sector, which promotes all these innovative and smart city projects coordinating the different departments of our administration. So we are handling both projects supporting the local economy, digital manufacturing, but obviously, one of our focus is the promotion of smart district activities. And among these, the Sharing Cities project has been really a very interesting pilot project for us, which has enabled us to prove with a very integrated approach, which is now the one we are trying to replicate among the city, obviously, and as Nathan was saying, not only within the city of Milan, but obviously within the other national and international cities. So this is surely an interesting opportunity for us. If you go further, we get a little bit into the project. We are one of the three main lighthouse cities involved in this Sharing Cities project, which means that which has been for us challenging because obviously we had very specific goals we had to reach in these 4 plus 2 years of monitoring, as we are now in the last one. And it has been very obviously the entity of the project is given by itself by the budget, which was a very high budget as well, but considering the objectives was surely important, and the partners we had to coordinate as, which were 17 in the only city of Milan, on top of the overall 35 partners involved internationally in all the projects. So we dealt with this is for sure one of the most successful keys of the project, the fact of being able to work in partnership with private companies. If you turn to the slide, the successive slide, you will see that we are dealing with big companies. Can you switch slide? Big companies, as well as for example, A2A, ATM, Siemens, big corporates, but also more average ones. We had the NGOs, Legambiente, which were very important for all the co-design process that was another key factor of our activities throughout all these years, and universities as well as research agencies. If we switch on again, we will get a little bit more into the overview of the project. Here you will find a map which gives you the idea of where the project has been working. So it's located into an area which is a pretty wide area of the city. Milan is all centered into around the Duomo. As you will see, this is the southeast part of the city. It's very wide, so it's wider than an only district, and it was selected on purpose in 2015 because it was a very challenging area for us. It was a former industrial area, which had a lot of the main, over more than 70% of the, let's say, the buildings were quite old and quite inefficient in terms of energy, from an energy point of view, so G or F energy classes. So there was a lot of work to do. And the more we went in the peripheral areas of this district, let's say, also in terms of mobility, it was still not connected as you are seeing now in the map, where we have tried to locate all the Sharing Cities, let's say, interventions. that you can see are integrated not only in terms of area, but also in terms of data and let's say interoperability of data, as I will explain you afterwards. The goals of the project were very, very challenging, because we tried to let's say implement almost zero consumption area, which means trying to work in reducing energy consumption, trying to enhance accessibility, push the intermodality in terms of mobility, also because it is an area which is not only residential, but it has more and more companies. So we wanted to have the people arriving for work, trying to find more and more other kinds of mobility transports rather than the private car, and attract, as Nathan said, the public and private investment. So this is the list of all the activities that we have, infrastructure that we have been implementing. If we go further with the next slide, this is a synthesis of what we have implemented throughout all these years. A big activity has been done on building refurbishment, in which we have to admit that at the beginning we were quite afraid that we would have not been able to reach the goal, because we had a very challenging goal in this segment. We needed, in fact, to refurbish 21,000 of square meters of private buildings, on top of 5,000 of square meters on a public residential building. And after all these years, we were very proud, because we not only reached the goal, but even went on top of it with, let's say, renovating 5 private residential buildings and on top of the public one, and reached almost 30,000 of square meters retrofitted. It was very, let's say, challenging, and because we had to convince, when we are talking of private residential buildings, the private owners, and it's the majority of them, to invest and to have, let's say, all the building, a little bit of uncomfortable workings done, in order to have, after all, a very, obviously a lot of, let's say, a more comfortable apartments and less consumption of energy. But still, it has been very interesting, the co-design process we had to do in order to explain these results that they could reach, and to convince them on the technical, so the most interesting technical solutions, and in these investments they in any case had to do. Then another segment, very important one, was the shared and e-mobility that we implemented, and it involved different kind of measures. We obviously started from the mobility, let's say, transports that were already settled in Milan. One of these, which had a lot of, was already established since 2009, was let's say, the shared bicycle system, which was having a lot of success, but this area didn't have this an enough spread number of stations. So the Sharing Cities project enabled the settlement of 14 stations on the area, which meant integrating the sharing bicycle system throughout all the city. And on top of this, we realized that there was a lack of reach into the, let's say, family targets. So with the introduction of 150 e-bikes with the child seat on the back, we were enabled to reach also the target of parents. We wanted to use this sharing system for transporting also their kids. Then we had the logistic mobility measure, we know that logistics is one of the main problems in terms of traffic congestions, and obviously in a big city such as Milan as well. So we tested in this area the introduction of e-mobility for logistics for 3 areas, for 3 shopping centers with 9 vans, total electric ones, and 2 cargo bikes for the last mile. And on top of this, we had installed 10 mobility areas, which were really let's say the first testing of mobility areas in the city of Milan. And afterwards we will see the municipality has spread this measure on the rest of the city, which meant the concentration of charging points for enhancing the use of electric cars and car sharing electric cars. Smart parking sensors were used for these mobility areas, but also for the public transport buses, which were sometimes are made not accessible to all people because of parks not parked correctly in the stations, the stopping stations. And then a community car sharing service. What links all these infrastructural measures is the sensors and the platform, the interoperability platform, which enables the sharing of data coming from all the usage of all these implementation. And SEMS is the instrument used for this. In terms of sensor, we have to also talk about one measure which is common to all the lighthouse cities involved in this project, which is the use of lampposts as infrastructure, in which we've introduced special intelligent smart sensors. In case of Milan, these are 28 and are used for revealing the quality of air, the quality of the air, the transport, let's say the traffic, and all these kind of data, which are interesting both from a mobility point of view and both from an environmental point of view. Last but not least, let's say behavioral change is for all the Sharing Cities project very important, because all the measures have been implemented thanks to a very important co-design methodology. So really planned, structured with the involvement of the final, let's say, target people, citizens, building owners, and users of mobility. And not for this reason, one of the implementation has been also a digital ecosystem, let's say a platform, an app, a social app, which is called Sharing Me, which has the real aim of pushing, let's say, the use and the adoption of, let's say, behaviors which are positive in terms of energy efficiency and environment, and also gives some special prices to all of the people who are using our let's say, our measures properly. If we switch to the next slide, you will see some pictures, for example, of the smart buildings. Challenges is the one I anticipated, the fact that we had to, in order to be able to do the retrofit that you are seeing from the old buildings, obviously the other half is the new one. We had to involve the majority of the owners. We had very strict deadlines for due to the project, and the deep retrofit in order to reach the 60% of energy consumption reduction was needed. So on top of this, we had obviously favorable conditions, which were the fact of having European contribution and a complex tool of financial tools, which were surely interesting for the owners. But as I anticipated, the co-design process was the very key innovative element, which factor that enabled us to not only reach the goal but to go further. So we're very proud of this measure. If we go further, we just wanted to show you a picture of our one of our most successful, let's say, mobility measures. This is the image of our or bike, which is e-bike and classical bikes sharing a system used in Milan. And these are the bikes bought thanks to the Sharing Cities project, which are now spread all over Milan. So if you come in our city, you will see them going around. And this obviously was, it is very important for us that we have been able to integrate the use of the bike system into this area, a pilot area of the Sharing Cities, which was a little bit let's say, did not have a lot of stations previously compared to the Sharing Cities implementation. And now we have a lot of data collection on the, let's say, on the tracks used and the number of travels used by the people, also starting from these stations, which gives surely an important feedback of the success of the measure. Next, just a quick image of the fact that all these implementations in this Sharing Cities area have been kind of done with an additional approach, because if you go clock round, let's say, you will see that we had already in this area, for example, undergrounds ongoing as public transports, buses and bike tracks since since different years, obviously. But thanks to the Sharing Cities, we have been able to implement these mobility measures with other ones, which are, for example, the car sharing system, thanks to the charging points which have been added in all these areas, and or the scooters. In any case, there has been a very, very enriched modal transition thanks to this, let's say, mobility offer. And just to close the overview, to the next slide, you will see how we managed here in Milan to, if you go to the next slide, please, you will see how we managed here in Milano to, let's say, to increase the investment had brought by the Sharing Cities project with other investments and other, thanks also to the replication internal in the city of all measures with other strategic activities done by the municipalities. So the smart buildings have been a very effective and important action. And now we are replicating it thanks to another procurement, which is called the B2 call, which is giving a lot of money for both private and private buildings in order to have a very strong building retrofit and continue, let's say, the positive effect of the Smart City project. In terms of social housing, we've, as I said, we have had a big intervention also in thanks to the Sharing Cities, and now thanks to the governmental bonus, which is ongoing, and through our let's say, MMM is a company owned by the municipality of Milan, who is now retrofitting with the investment that you are seeing here, the other residential house in Milan. All the activities done, and also in terms of mobility, are now replicated because we have really experimented thanks to the Sharing Cities project, and the positive effect are inside our strategy for urban sustainable mobility, which wants to expand, for example, the number of bike stations around the city, and also expand, and we are seeing it already nowadays, the number of charging points. So this is all for Milano. I think it's a big results. We are very happy of this, and we're here for any question. Thanks again.
Thank you, Clara. So I would directly hand over to Martin. So he is actually has a business consulting background and is responsible for oversight and implementation of projects in Warsaw that have to do with climate change and city reduction commitments. He also implements activities related to climate diplomacy and partnerships. And he will give you now some insight into Warshaw's experience with this Sharing Cities project from a fellow cities perspective. The floor is yours, Martin.
Thank you so much, Jens, and thanks for having Warsaw here. It's a challenge to impress people after such presentation from Milan with many cases of innovative way to enhance mobility and so on, but I will try to do my best. Next slide, please. And the next one. So as Jens said, I'm head of climate policy unit, and we deal with, let's say, 3 main areas. So the clean air, mitigation and climate change adaptation. Those are our, let's say, overall priorities, and you can, on the next slides, we'll be able to see the projects that hopefully will enhance these 3 priorities, and it will implement those goals that we already have. We are also a signatory of many declarations, many international projects and so on. But after signing this, after taking or having reduction targets or the climate neutrality goals, now we have to focus on the implementation part, and that's why, and that's what I'd like to present you. If we may go further. One again, please. So this, the flagship project of Warsaw for Sharing Cities is one of our park and ride facilities. We do have 16 of these all across the city. You can see that on the map. And the one we will be talking about is the Połczyńska street at the left-hand side, and how to modernize or to how to recreate this space to be more innovative than a classic park and ride facility. Next slide, please. So I think that's all. So as you can see, this is pretty old-fashioned park and ride facility. We have here, in a second, you will see more photos of this park and ride, but our, let's say, ultimate goal is to recreate, redevelop this site almost completely, to be more energy efficient, to be more innovative, and to basically create an innovation hub and pilot project where we will present and develop the solution. But it also will be a field for experimentation and research for other locations across Warsaw. So hopefully combining the efforts of sustainable energy measures, energy efficiency measures, renewables, and other let's say social benefits and environmental benefits will happen here. If we can go further, please. So those were the selection criteria for the project. You can clearly see the roughly estimations of the greenhouse gases emission reduction here. And at the same time, it's almost 100 tons. But scaling this project up to our 16 facilities, it gives us, well, 1.5 million tons of CO2 reduction. This is the calculations are rough. I won't be so, let's say, positive. I would say we can reach half of this. We conducted greenhouse gases inventory this year, and it turned out that the whole emissions from Warsaw are around 12 million tons. So it's almost 10% reduction potential here when the solutions are implemented. The scalability of the projects were one of the main points to be taken into consideration. I mean, as I said, we have 16 of more or less similar facilities, but the outcomes, the projects, the experiments can be easily leveraged also in different cities. I mean, neighbor communities, but also all across Europe. Next slide, please. And as I said, this links pretty well with our, let's say, department priorities. One is a clean air. The second one is the mitigation and adaptation to climate change. Our goal is not only to create a facility to be used as a park and ride, but also to provide a field for like further activities and further projects in the area of education, to ensure a place when people can go and enjoy their time. If we can go further, I'd like to show some photographs. So that's how it looks like currently. As you can see, pretty old-fashioned facility, a lot of concrete, a bit of greenery, but that's how it looks like. And if we go further, one or two slides, perhaps the next one is more, yeah, this one. That's how it will look. Yes, that's how it will look, hopefully in the coming years. So as you can see, a lot of greenery, photovoltaics are also an important element. The energy management systems here, and of course during the weekends or after the, let's say, cars are out, this will be a place that people from the neighborhood can go, enjoy their time, spend some time, learn a bit more about the projects that are implemented here. So basically, one more green space or park or whatever we call it in such neighborhood, which is very important from the adaptation, mitigation, and clean air perspective. If we can go for the next slides, I do have some, let's say, photographs or projects. That's hopefully how it will look like. Now we are at the procurement phase. So as I said, not only park and ride, but also a place where people can spend some time and enjoy their weekends, for example, once the car facilities are closed. If we go further, we can see the let's say the view of the pavilion, the thermal comfort zone during the heat waves, and the way how it was, let's say, designed is the way of is our way of thinking of such city-owned facilities and how this may look like. And on the last photograph, on the next slide, we have the replicable modular photovoltaic structures that are an object of one of our feasibility studies that we will conduct in the coming months, and similar equipment hopefully will be installed on a different or other park and rides as well. And as I said, this is our main, let's say, input or insight or a project for sharing cities. The benefit of being here are the leveraging options. On the next slides, you can see the three, let's say, options that we were thinking of, how to leverage the outcomes of this project, and two of these on left-hand side and on the right-hand side will be funded from Sharing Cities funds. So first of all, the concept of these repeatable modular photovoltaic structures in outdoor park and rides, and the vertical gardens and green roofs that can be scaled up on a different facilities that we have. Next slide, please. And here you can see on the right side again the current Park and Ride Połczyńska photograph, and on the left-hand side, the concept of the other Park and Ride, but with, considering all innovative ways we would like to design these facilities. So combination of photovoltaics, combination of greenery, combination of place for people to spend some time, and other, let's say, energy efficiency measures and innovations. Apart from the park and rides, we do a lot that we have. I prepared a selection of projects for you guys to either see what we do in the field of energy efficiency and smart cities, but also those were in many cases somehow inspired by other cities from Sharing Cities project, especially the smart infrastructure that I will talk about in a second. If we can go further, there is an information about the development plan for the charging infrastructure. It's difficult to think about being climate neutral without a mobility in the city. Electric car is still a car, so the mean of transport switch is the ultimate goal. But for short or mid-term, we have to ensure our inhabitants that they can feel they will be on a safe side when it comes to a mobility infrastructure and the charging stations. And on the next slide, you can see that a lot of those points were planned at our park and ride infrastructure and park and ride points, not only within Warsaw, also with our neighbor communities. So this, again, this will enhance the mobility concept here. On the next slide, you can see you are able to see other projects that we are currently procuring. It's Warsaw Air Quality Index and set of reference stations, but also air quality sensors. Some smart guy said that if you can't measure, then if you can't measure it, you cannot manage it. The sensors are not solution for air quality, which is pretty low in Warsaw, but then if we will be able to map a hotspot, for example, we will be able to implement solutions where required or to prioritize the actions. On the next slide, you can see the projects that it is linked with the previous one. So it's a comprehensive street lighting modernization program with a goal of lowering the energy consumption, ensuring the independence of those infrastructure, but also the greenhouse gases reduction. Approximately 30,000 tons, which is not so much in the scale of Warsaw, but it's the emission of one village from our voivodeship. So still worth. And at the same time, it's not only modernization for the energy efficiency purposes, but it also ensured that the lamp posts are able to be equipped. The lamp posts can be equipped with additional sensors or other equipment or stuff that will be necessary in the coming weeks or years. And last the last slide, last but not least, it's about the inclusive climate policy that we are making in Warsaw. So the Warsaw Climate Panel happened last year. We invited 90 random people representing different ages, different genders, different places all across cities, so they can develop recommendations and they can vote at the end of the process on the recommendations that are binding for the city. The example of the recommendations that are voted are, the one for example, is the Green Building Standard of Warsaw. So the set of guidelines on how to prepare the buildings, the city-owned buildings in Warsaw to either be energy efficient or energy independent currently, or how to design them so they can be equipped in the coming years when the funding is available. So so how to be prepared for the coming funding, and what are the benefits in the terms of OPEX, even if the CAPEX raised a bit at the investment phase. Yeah, so it was one of the greatest, I think, and the bravest decision that the city board made. I mean, inviting and inhabitants and giving the steering wheel to them. The mayor, Rafał Trzaskowski, committed Warsaw to doing these projects without knowing them yet. So it was a huge commitment from his side, and I believe this sends a clear message to the inhabitants that we trust you, that we want to know what you think is the best for the city and the most needed, and that we are moving forward together to realize the strategic goal of the climate neutrality, which means, at least for me, a better future for citizens, for the city, and it is the best thing you can do for the environment and the climate. And the last thought, the initiatives like sharing cities, being a part of Covenant of Mayors, C40 and others are very important catalysts for implementing specific measures and switch from planning and strategic to the actual implementations. And we are extremely happy to be a part of all these amazing forums and all these amazing vehicles. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Martin. So now we still have some minutes for questions from the audience. So please come forward. And so far, I have not seen any questions in the chat. I would have taken them up, but Julia, how much time do we actually still have? Julia?
I think we should have been finished by 45, so we're already running a bit late.
Okay, so anyway, there are no questions. So with this, yeah. I mean, then we are perfectly in time. I thank my speakers for the very comprehensive insight that you gave into this project and all the different aspects. Actually, there's so many more still. We just heard from 3 cities. There are other 3 cities in this, but there's so much more to tell. So I hope this was also seen as an appetizer for those who want to dive deeper. I invite you to go also again on the Sharing Cities webpage. There are so many other things also around. Martin mentioned it. I mean, the Covenant of Mayors, we are obviously now on the auspices of this. Then also, if you want to know more about what is going on for smart cities in the Commission, there's also the Smart Cities Marketplace that I would like to invite you to have a look at. There you can also find all the other information about the other 17 lighthouse projects that are under this cluster. So there's a wealth of information out there. And with this, again, thanks to everybody and have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.